Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Politics Now. We talk about modern politics in modern America. And today, we're going to be discussing whether Texas will flip blue or stay red in 2024, and how likely it is for either chance that it either goes Republican or it goes Democrat. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, Texas is a very strange situation, as there was a lot of trends throughout the 2010s, and it was still a relatively neocon state throughout the 2000s and early 2010s. They voted for Ted Cruz during the 2016 primary, and most of the positions in the Texan Republican Party and the Senate and the House, they were all held by neocons. We've seen a pretty decent shift where a lot of those positions, especially in the House, they're more so held by more Trump style populist, and they are doing pretty well. You see the graph, and when you see 2020 and the effect that had, a lot of these more rural areas, they moved farther to the right, and especially the southern trend. Now, southern Texas was shifting to the left mad. It had a lot of Hispanic trends there, and a lot of the trends there were moving to the left. And now they have been trending to the right very, very fast. South Texas, southeastern western Texas, it's all been trending to the left. Right. It's all been trending to the right, and Democrats, they don't rely on that trend anymore. They can't rely on it, and they're mostly banking on places like Dallas and Fort Worth. They're banking on those places moving farther and farther to the left, kind of like how in Atlanta, Georgia kept moving to the left, and that's basically what makes them win Georgia and have the opportunity to even have a chance at winning Georgia. But really, those trends are very, very small compared to the southern Texas trends and the rural trends, because southern Texas and the rural areas and even places like Houston, which Houston is a big city, but they don't exactly have a lot of Democrat support. They're definitely one of the most Republican big cities that isn't like a city of maybe 5,000 people. I'm talking like really, really big cities. They're fairly Republican compared to some place like LA, New York City, uh, Minneapolis, Chicago. A lot of those other big cities are very, very Democrat. And most of the left wing trends are from places like Austin and Fort Bend and Dallas, which Dallas, compared to Fort Bend and Fort Worth and Austin, compared to those places, it's not having a particularly left wing trend. It's kind of going to the left, but not really. And then it will flip back and go to the right. It's sort of in the middle, but it's majority Republican. So Republicans should still have a pretty easy shot at least holding half of that area. Maybe not the other half, but at least half. And the Southern trends are definitely going to steal, especially a lot of House seats from Democrats, because Democrats, they have a couple House seats that are banking on Southern Texas remaining far to the left in that Hispanic trends to keep moving them farther to the left, which that hasn't been happening at all. It has gone 20 or 50 or 30 or 40. They've gone so far to the right, and they have continued to go even farther to the right. As these trends continue, it's going to be even harder for Democrats to have any chance at winning Texas in 2024. And those trends in the big cities, or at least two of them, they aren't going to be able to counteract these more right wing trends in southern Texas and rural Texas, and even places near Houston or Beaumont, or really in a lot of these other areas that aren't Fort Worth and Austin. Those are the places that Democrats are going to focus on moving farther to the left. And even if they do a really good job at that and they move it even farther to the left, you still have the places like Brooks County where they're moving 32 points to the right, and a lot of these places are in a similar boat. So, just given the trends there, they're not exactly moving to the left. And if anything, Texas is moving farther to the right, and they might become a safe red state at this rate if the trends in the big cities don't continue and they just sort of stagnate and flatline. If they don't continue, Texas is becoming a safe red state. If they do continue, it's pretty much going to end up in the same place that it's always been, where it's a likely red state. But you count all of these trends, and really a lot of them manifest in the 2022 elections, which, yeah, they weren't exactly Republican friendly. I mean, it was a pretty big disappointment. It's kind of like maybe under a point shift towards the Republicans, but still, if Texas is under any threat of becoming blue, a lot of these elections should have a fairly decent shot at becoming Democrat. And you look at them, and they are not good at all. You have the governorship, which Greg Abbott, not exactly the most popular. He made a lot of promises. He didn't exactly deliver on a lot of them. And Beto, yeah, he didn't do well at all. If Republicans are under any threat of losing Texas, you think it would have been reflected in the governor election, especially against a unpopular Republican candidate. And even the Senate election, Ted Cruz still got reelected by a pretty decent majority. And Greg Abbott, he also got elected by a pretty decent majority. He did go down 1% from his last run, but he still was beating Beto by over 10 points. And it's really been the same for all the elections. Lieutenant governor, again, similar story, over 10 points. We have the attorney general, that also went Republican, over 10 points. Comptroller of public accounts also went Republican by even more than 10 points. Went it by 16. And it just is the same thing over and over and over. All these Republicans keep winning big. And if Texas is under any threat of being an actual swing state, you think it would have been reflected in the fairly disappointing 2022 midterms, but it hasn't. Republicans still win by around 10 points in a lot of these elections, and sometimes they even win by more than that. So, Texas, it's not under really any threat of becoming a swing state at all, or even becoming slightly more Democrat. Given the trends and looking at the popular vote, Texas went 1 point to the left in 2020, and Biden needed to be 7 points above Trump in the polls in order for that to happen. And just nationally, it went left 2 points, which Texas isn't going that far to the left. It went below nationally, and Biden needed to be pretty high in the polls in order for that to even happen. And you compare it to now, Biden isn't exactly doing well. Trump has massive gains over Biden, and he's doing pretty well. So if you need massive gains for Biden and a massive lead for him, where the popular vote is going 4 points for Biden, just to get Texas to move 1% to the left, well, if Trump is beating Biden by massive margins, considering that this is Trump we're talking about, and Democrats usually have a pretty decent shot at winning the general election polls and the popular vote, yeah, if anything, Texas is going to trend more to the right, maybe by a point or two, and Trump is probably going to win it by pretty similar margins. He won it by 5 points last time, or 6 points, but this time he's probably going to win it by around 7 or 8, and that isn't a swing state at all. If you even continue with the 2020 margins where it moved 1 point to the left, that's still not a swing state. That's a lean state or a likely state. That's on the same level as maybe, I don't know, New Hampshire or Maine at large or even Virginia. those aren't swing states. Those are likely Democrat states. And it's the same thing for Texas. It's still not up for grabs for Democrats. And it might become more Democrat in the coming years, but not this decade. This election and this year, it is going to be a pretty easy shot for Republicans at winning it. Worst case scenario, it becomes slightly competitive, but that's if Biden wins all the swing states and North Carolina and all of these other states that would be likely become competitive. That is the best case scenario for Texas in terms of Democrats. Republicans, they pretty much just need to maintain their current lead, and Texas is going to go almost 10 points for Trump. So, Texas, it's not going to go blue. It's just not. Texas is a red state. It is a extremely red state, and just because 2022 was disappointing and apparently Hispanic trends are still happening, even though 2020 proved that they're moving to the right, if anything. Yeah, it's just not going to the left. Democrats, you don't really have a chance at winning Texas. You might make it close if, you were actually doing well in the polls, but you're not. So, Texas, probably going to stay the same or go more Republican. It's not really going to change all that much. Republicans still have a pretty easy shot at winning Texas, and Democrats don't really have any chance of winning Texas unless something massive happens. Yeah, nothing is really going to change when regards to Texas. And saying that it's going to magically flip blue and, oh, Republicans are so worried about it flipping blue. No, just no. It's not going to flip blue. It needs, like, massive landslides for Biden to even have a chance, any chance. But now, looking at the polls, looking at the trends, looking at everything, looking at the midterms, there's just no evidence to support that it's a swing state at all, or even slightly more Democrat than 2020, which 2020 is likely to be the most Democrat Texas in the coming couple of decades. Maybe if massive trends change and, I don't know, there's like a Georgia situation where it swings way far to the left, then we can start talking. But for now, there's nothing like that happening. And if anything, it's becoming more Republican just due to those rural and southern Texas trends. So, t- Democrats, Joe Biden doesn't have any chance of winning Texas. Trump is probably going to win Texas, and he's going to win it by equal or greater majorities than 2020. So, if you think Texas will stay red, leave it in the comments below. If you think it will flip blue somehow, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.